This is The Becoming, a podcast about the sacred and powerful journey of awakening and becoming who you truly are.
We're your hosts, Kate and Judy Moon. As a mother-daughter duo with many years of experience in coaching and personal transformation and lifetimes of wisdom between us, together we explore what it truly means to come alive, living with deeper meaning and purpose, breaking generational chains, reclaiming freedom, and guiding the soul's return to wholeness.
Through soulful conversations about healing, transformation, and the power of MDMA-assisted therapy, along with raw, behind-the-scenes reflections and insights that illuminate the path forward, we invite you into a journey that's not just about healing your past. It's about breaking through the invisible barriers that have kept you stuck and finally stepping into the life you've always known you were meant for.
Whether you're in the middle of a heartbreak, an awakening, a breakdown, or a breakthrough, you're not alone. This is The Becoming.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of The Becoming.
We're Kate and Judy Moon, and we are so excited to be here today with you and welcome you to our very first episode.
We made it. Oh my goodness.
We made it.
So to say that this has been a long time in the making would be the understate of the century.
We're not going to count the number of years that we've claimed that, we're starting a podcast.
We're starting a podcast.
Guess what?
We're starting a podcast.
We're here.
But you know, the truth of it is that I think it's really easy to judge ourselves in general about the things that we say that we want to do and to say, oh, we should have done that so long ago. But the truth of it is that
so clearly that's not true.
It's not.
Today is the day.
This was the perfect time.
Perfect moment.
And it's not to say that we didn't have valuable things to share over the years, but how we have evolved and the women that we have become are really the ones that are able to sit down on this couch today and do this podcast together.
And really talk about what's required to actually become.
To become.
Well,
the two of us have had quite a few iterations. Being mother-daughter, we've had a lot of them together. It still almost like freaks me out that you had a life before me. Like I don't even really that like my brain can't comprehend. I'm like, no, it started the day that I was born.
It clearly did. Yeah.
But so we've had a lot of iterations together. But one of the things that I am continually so proud of that we have done so well is burn versions of ourselves in our lives to the ground and willing to start again.
From the ashes.
We
rise. We have risen. I know. No, it's really true, Kate. I mean, my life also began when you were born.
Oh, thanks.
It really did. It really did. It really blossomed when you were born. I mean, at the time, I was a nurse actually back in the day, but I hadn't even actually started working yet. If you remember,
if I remember,
if you remember,
I do remember.
No. But I had graduated from nursing school, and that was to be my future. And then their little Caitlin is born, and I was blessed to be able to stay home with you for a few years.
Yeah.
And then I did start nursing only to recognize that I am not someone who really wants to be tied to a job.
You and I are both semi-unemployable.
Kind of unemployable, a little bit on the rebel side.
But you know what I've come to note about this whole thing about being a rebel, because I do feel like the ways that we live our lives is a bit counterculture. It's a little different than how most people do because we work for ourselves. You and I have been on a path of a lot of personal development and growth for a long time that many people aren't. But the thing that I've really realized is that being a rebel for both of us is a lot less about being a rebel for the sake of being a rebel. It's not that
you can't help it.
Well, it's not like some people, they want to be different in order to be significant, that becomes their identity. That's never been the case here. It's really more about us following the most authentic path that we are like dredging up from the core of our being, and
it's like we can't not.
we can't
We
not.
can't not. I mean, and it's really following that true north and what's like our true calling that has continued to evolve,
It has continued to evolve.
which I think is the point, that it continues to evolve.
So most of our listeners, especially this being the first episode, my guess is that you probably know us personally. You've worked with us. You've been in our sphere for a while. We might have some new people that jump on, but it was about 13 years ago that we linked arms, and we were talking about
In this iteration of our lives.
yes.
Yes.
So before we hit record, we were kind of talking about how do we want to share about ourselves and our history, just to give you a little bit of sense of where this partnership really stemmed from, but also where this whole concept of the becoming has come from as well.
Sure. Well, there was a time that I did live on this planet without you.
Shocking but true.
Shocking but true. But honestly, well, I would never have guessed that we would be like where we are today years ago.
No.
I mean, there's no way that we can absolutely know
we
that.
could have
No.
ever seen this or predicted this.
But here's the thing. When we follow our interests, who was that said that?
It was actually Liz Gilbert.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she said
okay.
that one of the things that she's really found in her life, when people come to her and say, like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, or, I don't know what my greatest passion is. She says, instead of, it can be really overwhelming
to try and figure it out.
Well, to be like, it's a lot of pressure. What is this like great passion that I'm meant to like spend the rest of my life inside
this one passion that I have to choose. Oh my gosh.
And so the advice that she gives is don't try and like follow your passions, follow your interest.
So I followed my interest.
Yeah.
I will just say, and we'll start kind of in the latter part of my 20s. We'll discuss other things on other episodes.
We have
a lot to discuss. But at that point in my life, in my later 20s, I was very, very interested in personal development. And like, what are we all doing here on this planet? And why are we here? And all these questions. And it was back in the day. I don't know if any of you guys had heard of S training, but I decided that I was going to do this big seminar and do S trainings. Like it's a self-discovery thing.
Well, and that later became the forum, didn't it?
It did.
So this was early. It was actually way more intense.
This was
like you weren't allowed to get up and go to the bathroom.
No, we couldn't. It was like 1981 that I did S training, and I was terrified. I mean, I remember I was so intimidated with these trainers, and literally we could not get up to go to the bathroom, because what that would have meant is that we were dismissing something that was coming up for us, and it was very convenient to leave the room. They wouldn't let us do it.
I kind of get it.
I kind of get it too. I mean, so they were on to something for sure, but they were a little militant. At any rate, survived.
And I was going to say, so what preceded all of this is that, and we will do a full episode on this, because if you guys don't know, Judy is probably one of the strongest women that walks the planet. At 72 years old, she's gone through a lot, and there's just a wealth of wisdom to be shared here. But your 20s were
turbulent,
very turbulent, and very grief-filled. You went through a very painful divorce. You had my brother Matthew, and then you had
before the divorce.
And then you lost a child.
Yeah, I gave birth to another son, and we'll go in more details about that.
But he died of a genetic disorder in our family.
Yeah, so something that we carried in our family.
And then after your divorce, the father of your two boys was killed. All before you were 27?
Well, I'll say in a span of like, I don't know, maybe less than 4 years.
So going through this, when you said you were, what I know about you, you've always been a seeker, but that spurred you on to really, it makes sense why you would be asking the bigger questions in life.
I mean, going through the birth and the death of a child with a genetic disorder, And having two brothers with the same syndrome, it's something that we carry generationally in our
Mhm.
family. And yeah, it really is like, so what is this all about?
Mhm.
Um, and it was really, really, really hard. And I learned a lot about myself that I did not know. And I learned that my strength, I look at the hard things and I go through it and I do it and
Mhm.
I face it. And that's something that really built my self-confidence, and I learned about it within myself, my character.
I don't think you knew that about yourself
No, I
until
didn't.
that
I
time.
didn't. I had other stories in my head that had been given to me by family members that maybe that I was not someone who persevered or could handle great challenges, but I learned that about myself.
What a gift. What a
And that was the gift. I mean, I do believe I will always know that Andrew came to, as a teacher for me. And then I began to be interested in all other things and personal development, and it led me down many, many paths
yeah.
before you were born.
Mhm.
It led me to one thing that I did know is that after Andrew died and as my experience with, his birth and his death, I knew, I knew that I wanted to help other people go through hard things. And I didn't really know what that was going to look like, but I had been
Sure.
so supported. And it was like, I just knew that that was something that I was called to do.
Yeah.
And so I went down the path of life and I became a nurse. That seemed to be the most practical thing at the time.
But also going through what you went through with Andrew, there were a lot of helpers that really supported you, and I'm
Yeah.
guessing that many of them were nurses, and
Yeah.
that was a really that was a clear path that you could follow. When you don't know exactly what being of support to other people looks like, that was a really
Exactly.
clear next step.
Absolutely. I mean, it could have been a nurse. I could have been a social worker. And actually, to be honest, I considered a therapist
Mhm.
at the time, and that span of education was going to take me longer.
Of
And
course, and
I had
you
Matthew.
had a really little boy.
I had a 4-year-old at
Yeah,
that time. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So it it was all perfect the way it ended up being.
totally.
But then and Matthew and we moved here to New Mexico, to Santa Fe, the land of enchantment. This
Mm.
gorgeous, gorgeous
Expanse.
expanse, the mountains, the sky. And it was a real new beginning.
Yeah.
And I continued to be really interested in personal development. I studied the Course in Miracles and Marianne Williamson and, all these different avenues of
Mhm.
spirituality. And then I met your father, and we had a couple years later, and we began a life together with little Caitlin. And you and I just always from the get go were just really buds.
We definitely have a very unique relationship for which
Yeah.
I am eternally thankful. It is the greatest blessing of my life. I will get emotional.
Well, I might get emotional too. I mean, I will get emotional. Um, I mean, you can imagine after losing a child and really, 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 really wanting her.
Mm.
And I was blessed with you.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to sit here and
I
cry.
know. We're just gonna weep
Yeah.
on the couch.
I know.
Join us.
Yes.
Well, I was gonna say in that same vein of you always being a seeker, I mean, who you are today is how I've always experienced you. You are 72 years old now and so vibrant and so alive and so eternally optimistic while also being able to simultaneously hold the hard stuff in life.
Mm, yeah.
And so the mother that I grew up with was always a seeker who
Yeah.
was always like, what's around? Like, there's so much joy and excitement and life around the next bend.
Because I just want it all.
Exactly.
I just
Yes.
want it all. I know, totally.
And so what I think is so cool is, I mean, we're talking like late 80s here. So
Yeah.
there, in the backdrop of all of this is what it is to be a woman and the different generations and what we as women have been told that we're capable of doing. And so when you were growing up, like the kind of the options were like, okay, are you going to be like a nurse, a teacher,
Yeah.
a
Or
stay-at-home
stay at
mom, a
home or a
secretary?
secretary.
And
And
so
what is the most practical?
it's always,
It was always, what is the most practical? And so, and it comes from a place up here rather than a lived experience. But also a lived experience comes from experience. Life experience.
Yes.
And so often we don't know. We can think we, try it on and see how it fits. Well, how many lifetimes do we need?
I mean, you're like the cat with 9 lives.
Because I've done a few things.
You like to burn them to the ground.
I do.
A lot. Now we get to do it like shoulder to shoulder.
We do. I've taught you well. I've raised you well.
Well, and your sister became the teacher and you became the nurse.
I became a nurse.
So this is sort of what was available to you at the time.
It was. I was not interested in being put in a box. That's one thing I really realized, because I made the decision to become a nurse because I wanted to help people. And that was the box that I could see at the time.
Yeah.
But once I got in that box, it's like, this box it's too small.
It's too constricting.
It's too constricting. I've always said I didn't want to spend my life under fluorescent lights. And that's really I want to spend my time outdoors.
You want to be like on top of a mountain
I do.
On a random Tuesday morning at 10 a.m., which is what we do.
Which is what we get to do.
Yes.
But, we have to take these steps, and then, and then you go down this path, and then you go down this path.
And more is revealed.
And more is revealed. If we don't take the risk, I could have just stayed there. I mean, I worked with so many people who really didn't love their nursing jobs, and they just didn't even consider that there was a possibility for something else. Mm-hmm. But I was always like, okay, so what's next here?
And at the time, so you were introduced to a health and wellness company business that you dove into.
And which was actually the stepping stone to personal development. Really. I was kind of before that more into the spiritual development kind of stuff, which is great too. But the personal development, it was a network marketing company that was a health and wellness company. And at the time, to be a woman entrepreneur wasn't even a thing.
That was the option. There was no internet. You did all of this locally.
No, I mean,
you put ads.
But the whole thing that excited me was the possibility that I could create something that was just mine, that I could be a leader and I could encourage and I could support other people, other women.
Dare I say coach?
Would we say the coach?
Dare I say coach other women?
Coach other women, that they too could follow in my footsteps, and they too could create the life that they wanted to live. That was the option at that point.
Yeah.
And part of this health and wellness company really encouraged was personal development. Mm-hmm. So I was listening back in the day to Tony Robbins when he was just a mere child.
He was a whippersnapper.
He was a child. I mean, he was. But he became big, and then there was Wayne Dyer, and then there was Les Brown. I mean, I think a lot of people don't even know who Les Brown is because he's
anymore,
because I think he's older than I am.
He's still out there.
A
lot of people still. I mean, a lot of our listeners probably, you guys know Les Brown.
He's got a lot of piss and vinegar.
Oh yeah.
Zig
Ziglar,
but
Jim Rohn.
Jim Rohn.
Come on now.
He's the dude.
He's the man.
He's the OG.
He is.
He's like the OG. Anyway, there's a lineage.
I
was following a lineage, and I was being trained in personal development by all these amazing people. Yes.
So I'm in my car seat in the back of the car, and we are driving around Santa Fe, New Mexico, delivering products for this health and wellness company that you are working with.
In my little bag.
And we are alternating between listening to Les Brown and
Tony Robbins
and Raffi.
So we would trade off, we'd do Raffi for a while, and we'd sing the songs together.
And then we're back to personal development.
And then we go back.
So I've been like indoctrinated with this stuff since birth, essentially.
Like literally. So that's the fun part to actually.
I know. It's very adorable.
Reminisce about.
It is.
It's really very. So we were good buds, and we would hang out together. And I worked as little as I possibly could at the hospital. Mm-hmm. I worked nights then, so I could be home more. So we had a lot of time together. And then fast forward, and well, Kate, you
growing up and you're continuing to build your business, and life evolves, and you and my dad separate.
We did.
This lifestyle where you were able to be a little bit more free came to an end for a while.
It did. And I needed to go back.
But you became a hospice nurse.
I became a hospice nurse.
So this is when I was in high school.
And I knew that that was really what I wanted to do. That I really wanted some, I don't know, not sure if it's like completion around death, because I don't know if we're ever complete with it. But I was just always really drawn to the whole death and dying movement,
Yeah.
actually, and what it would be to be someone who supported another as they pass on,
And not just another, the whole family
the
system,
whole family system.
because a lot is revealed in that transitional period
Well,
inside of a family.
that's not what that many of us are even aware of,
Not
is
at
the truth.
all.
Yeah.
You
So
became aware of
all
that.
the dysfunction of a family is very present at the end of one's life. Yeah. Um, and that was just really eye opening. And I really felt like I could really make a difference in with those families and for those that were passing. And it was really, honestly, it was really, I'm not going to say easy for me. It was a calling.
I know a lot of people are really intimidated about
Yeah.
death and really cannot even fathom sitting at the bedside with someone who is in that transitional phase.
Yeah.
But I know for you, it brought you a tremendous amount of purpose and meaning.
It did. It did. And so that was a great blessing for me. At this point, Kate, you had graduated
I graduated from high
from high
school. I
school.
started university.
Yeah.
In my junior year, I was so blessed,
Mm,
unbelievably blessed, and supported by this amazing woman here to go study abroad. So I went to study abroad in Rome. The whole intention, I was going to go for 2 semesters. This is back in 2006.
yeah.
So I was going to go for just 2 semesters and study. And I literally majored in art history so that I could go live in Italy because we had gone on a
A
trip
trip
there the year
the year
before,
before.
and I'd never been out of the country. So I had to get a passport for that trip. I'm 19 years old, and a whole world was opened before my eyes. And I had never been more lit up by anything. So I decided to major in art history so that I could come back and live in Italy and learn Italian and
Yeah.
study all of this richness. And so
And you're
I
supposed to go for 2
I was supposed to
semesters.
go for 2 semesters.
Yeah.
I came back at Christmas break
Hmm.
to Santa Fe.
Yeah. With, here she opens up her suitcases in the middle of the living room. There were a couple of bottles of wine for
It almost got confiscated because I'm not even of age yet.
I
I'm
know.
20.
I know, I know. You unpack all this stuff from Italy. It was like, oh my God, your life had completely expanded and just
I was stretching my wings,
you.
and you could just tell how lit up I was. And you said you're not allowed to come back. You're not allowed to come back and study art history in a dark classroom in the middle of the desert in Albuquerque, New
No,
Mexico.
no.
This is not the life for
I mean,
you.
I looked at you and I just said, you cannot come back here. You cannot.
I mean, that's some great
You
momming
cannot.
right there.
So I remember that was that winter. We were actually reading
Eat,
Eat,
pray,
Pray,
love.
Love
I know. I know.
in a snowstorm.
In a snowstorm.
And we were trading the book back and forth.
Yep.
And we were also dreaming up this new plan. And there was an internet at that point.
There was.
And we got on the internet
This is the day
and
of Skype, y'all. Remember Skype?
remember Skype.
Oh my gosh. That's how we stayed connected.
We did. We did.
So I transferred to another university after those 2 semesters and I finished my degree. So I ended up staying in Rome for 5 years.
And how did you do that, my dear?
Part of this was that I started working when I was 12. Like working was always part of the backdrop of our lives and our family.
Well, and you also worked with special needs kids.
I worked with special needs
Yep.
kids that had Down syndrome and severe trauma and
Yeah.
really challenging home lives. So
At 12.
when I was 12,
At
13,
12 and
13,
14.
yeah.
Yeah. All of, I mean, I'm just going to brag about you for a minute. Like all of the other
Counselors.
they were so impressed with you.
Mm.
And I'm not surprised because you were already like an adult at 12.
I was like, like calling a family meeting with one of the very troubled kids, like, okay, we're getting all the counselors together, we're getting the family in here. And it's not, it's actually the grandparents because the kid doesn't actually have parents that are active in their lives. And we're all getting on the same page about how we're all raising this kid. I'm like 12, 13 years old doing this. So, and then I waited tables in high school, and I actually did wait tables in Italy, which that was a really rough summer because
Like barely speaking the language.
9 months in, my Italian was rough, but that was a crash course
I would have been terrified.
getting people in the kitchen yelling at you in another language, and
but at least you didn't understand it.
You understand the tone. So, because I was studying art history, I had all of this knowledge about art. And so I became
So what did you do with that?
I became a private tour guide working at the Vatican, which sounds like a fake job, but it was real.
It was real. It was real.
So I did that for about 4 years there. And I've probably been in the Sistine Chapel 500-600 times. I started to save my ticket stubs every time I would go in. And by the time I moved, I ended up getting rid of them because I got rid of most things, but I had over, 250 at that time. So I've spent
a garbage bag full.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in the Vatican hanging out with Michelangelo and Raphael. I'm very lucky.
And ushering people through what you had learned in your experiences and building relationships with all of these families that were coming.
Yeah.
And
a lot of American families,
I love that one story. Can you share it without crying?
Probably not.
But it's okay if you cry.
Well, there were a couple of different groups that, you'd have all different types of people come in. And honestly, to try and explain to an American audience the significance of something that's 2,000 years old, like we have buildings that are dilapidated at 50 years old. So they never could really, a lot of us, we just can't really grasp.
We don't have that
what
kind of history
means. Whereas the Italians, then they just completely ignore it. Like they grew
up
next to the Colosseum. So it means absolutely nothing to them. They're like, oh, this is old hat.
I was going to say that broken down building, that's half standing.
So I'd have a whole variety of people that I would work with. And, many of them were families and they just wanted the tops of the waves. And
they, almost to check it off, like, well,
I've been to the Sistine Chapel.
I did that in Italy.
Forum. I went to the Colosseum. But then there were other people who were very into art and history, and we would get into really deep conversations. And then there were other people who they were coming to Italy actually recovering from the grief of losing someone important to them. So there were two different groups that I will always remember that had both lost children. One was a group of of 6 adults, 3 different couples. One of the couples had lost their son who was maybe 9, 10 years old. I don't remember what he had, but they had lost their son, and the other 2 couples had said, we need to go and take a vacation. You guys, like it had been like a year, and they were just still, of course, mired in their grief. And so I remember I would always give a description of the Sistine Chapel. I would bring pictures and like a fold out so that I could explain it, because you can't technically speak in the Sistine Chapel. Sometimes you can get away with it, but you're looking up, it's too complicated to try and explain once you're inside of the Sistine Chapel. So I would explain it beforehand so that we would get in, and then they could look up and they like we already went through the whole spiel previously. Yeah. So we had already gone through the full description of the Sistine Chapel. We get into the chapel and we're standing right underneath a particular prophet that's painted there. And they all have names that are written underneath there. There are 7 prophets and 5 sibyls, which are female prophets. And they all have names that are written in Latin. So most of the names you can't really read that well. But this woman, the mother, looks up and she sees the name Daniel written underneath one of the prophets. And it's written very clearly, like in English. It doesn't it doesn't look like a Latin name. And she burst into tears and said, oh my gosh, I feel like this is my son. Like
he's here.
He's here.
He's here. He's with us. Yeah. He's still with us.
Yeah. So these are the kinds of experiences that I got to have with people. And it was very unique. It was very meaningful. So there was another couple who their daughter had been an addict and she had
Mm,
died of an overdose, and they were raising her children,
mm,
and they were a really young, fun, vibrant couple, and they had gone through hell and back with this whole situation, and they finally got some people to take care of the grandkids for a week so that they could go and reconnect with one another and just, be solid again as a couple. And we had so much fun, like a lot of laughs. But of course, they shared with me about what they had gone through.
yeah.
And then I would just remember the three of us standing in front of the Pietà, which is Michelangelo's sculpture inside of St. Peter's Basilica of Mary holding the dead body of Christ when he's come down off of the cross. And the three of us just sobbing about what it is for a parent to be dealing with the death of their adult child.
Yeah. Mm, mm.
Okay. Welcome to episode 1.
Well, it's kind of real life, isn't it,
It's kind
Kate?
of real life.
And we kind of do real life. We don't do anything other than real, is the truth.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So this was my experience living in Italy, and it was incredibly rich and very meaningful. And I was very lit up being there. But the interesting thing is that I always had a sense that there was something waiting for me on the other side of this experience in
Yeah.
Italy.
Yeah. I mean,
And
like who would ever want to leave that?
and I
And yet you were called.
well, I didn't really want to leave Italy. I was having a lot of trouble getting a visa after having student visas. A work visa was a whole other ball of wax.
And you just can't get it. I mean, yeah.
I tried a lot of, so I could have gone back to school. That would have been an
Mhm,
option. But the other
mhm,
thing is that I had
mm.
I had incredible professors who, I mean, we're talking like the world's expert on Caravaggio that the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York looks to as, their resident, like Caravaggio, go-to expert. I had amazing professors who had all gone on to get masters and PhDs and
PhDs.
many times multiple masters or
Yeah.
PhDs.
And they were brilliant.
They were brilliant
And they were
and
amazing
they were
humans.
amazing humans. And they were also in the Sistine Chapel with me, guiding groups as a supplement to their income teaching because they couldn't make enough money just teaching just at a university.
So it wasn't that they were escorting you. You would walk in and you
We'd
would
all have our clients walking through the Sistine
you
Chapel and I wave them,
and here
hey.
you are, this young little whippersnapper.
And they're
And
20, 30 years ahead of me, but this
yeah,
is how they're having to make their money. And I could see my
sure.
future written in front of me. And so I knew that that wasn't going to fly for me.
You didn't want to just live like hand to mouth.
I didn't want to live hand to mouth.
It's a
And
hard way of living.
it is.
Yeah.
And I sensed I didn't have the path ahead of me at all, but I sensed that there was probably another way of me expressing myself in terms of my vocation out in the world, but I had no idea what that was.
And, was it in art history? Was it, I mean, I mean, you had zero idea at that point, Kate.
So I made this really scary decision to burn my life to the ground, a
You
life
did?
that everyone around me looked at and like,
Are
are
you
you
crazy?
crazy?
Well,
Why would you ever
I
leave
know.
Italy?
I mean, I was, of course, thrilled that she was coming back to the States, but
You would have been
only
equally as thrilled if I had a path that I was
totally.
really lit up with.
No,
You would have fully
totally.
supported it.
Because totally, I would not. And I mean, yeah, I would. I was thrilled that I was going to see you more,
Of
but I
course.
did not want you to come back if this
No.
was not your right path
And I
at
knew
all.
that. Like I felt zero pressure with
Yeah.
that, but that's what I ended up after a long period of a lot of soul searching. I actually did The Artist's Way.
That's
If you've
right.
ever heard of The Artist's Way with Julia Cameron,
And
it's
how many years ago was
incredible.
that, Kate? It was
I started it in
it
2010.
was after that Christmas that you came. Was it that Christmas you came back? And I said, "Here, take this," because it was my old Julia Cameron's Artist's Way that I had done when you were like 9 or 10 or something.
But it sat on my bookshelf for
A
a
couple
couple of
years.
years.
Yeah,
And that's isn't that just
I know.
beautiful how that happens for so many of us, that the teacher truly shows up at exactly the right time or the resource drops in our lap.
And then we pick it up 2 years on. I mean, that copy still has my handwriting in it when I
Oh, I
did
will
when
never
I
get rid of it.
went through it.
Because it has both of
Both of us,
us
I know.
in. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so this is so you kind of see how
Breadcrumbs.
this, I mean, these kinds of conversations were happening just
Years and
naturally,
years and years.
years.
So this was 15 years ago that I did the artist way, and I ultimately made the really tough decision to move back to the US, but I didn't know what the hell I was going to do.
Yeah.
So I moved back and I wait tables, and like that wasn't the vibe.
That wasn't going to be sustainable.
No, that was not going to be the
Yeah.
thing, but I didn't know what it was.
But at the same time, what was not sustainable for me was I was itching. I knew that there was something more for me too.
Oh, interesting.
I know. I knew it. And I actually had identified it a handful of years, quite a few years before, but I just never knew how it was going to happen. I remember watching, I wanted to make a difference in other people's lives, and I was a nurse, and I was hanging out, with Tony Robbins and, all those dudes,
all the dudes.
listening to them and inspired by them. I was like, oh my God. But there wasn't a woman coach. Like it wasn't even an option. All these dudes were doing it until I saw on Oprah that Cheryl Richardson, she came out into the coaching industry and she was a woman.
Oh my gosh. And she was a life coach.
And she was a life coach. And it was like, my God.
Well, these other guys, they had all been motivational speakers.
They were.
That's
they
different.
actually were not like working one-on-one with people, really helping people. And I thought, oh my God, this is exactly what I want. But in the meantime, I was working full time. I needed to have a job, a job. Your dad and I were divorced.
Yeah.
And, and I was committed to supporting you, of course. And so it's something that I always really wanted. And I'd look at some different things as things kind of started percolating a little bit more out there in the world. And I was hospice nursing at the time. Finally, something, a little sprouted.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a possibility for something, another coach who I had known in the past. She actually was a minister. She was a New Thought.
Like non-denominational.
Yeah, exactly. And I just loved everything that she had to say. I found out that she had a coaching program. And I said, damn it, I am going to do this. And I wasn't going to have to quit my job. I could still do it, fly to LA and do this and all the things. And that was really when you came home.
It was all in that time period.
Like within those few months. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I said yes. And lo and behold, what I found, and I was going to be flying in January. This was when I signed up. I think it was in November, December or something when I enrolled. And I was going to be flying in January to go to an event. I found out that I was going to be able to bring somebody with me. I had an extra ticket.
Out of anyone that you know who might be interested.
And I said, well, hey, would you want to come with me? And I think I had like frequent flyer miles kind of thing. So let's go have a really great fun weekend. And you were all into this stuff anyway.
Hello.
I mean, we were listening.
You heard about the car seat in the back of the car. Exactly. And I mean, hello.
But at the same time, we were really interested in listening to this kind of stuff. So we went together. And in this great big audience, and it was exciting and fun. And I was so excited because I was going to go back and be trained in a few months as a coach, as a life coach. Hello, finally. The coach herself was actually talking about this program to the audience.
This coaching program,
I had already enrolled in
coaching certification program.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I was good to go. I'd already signed up, and I'm really excited about it. And I look over. And there is my daughter standing up from her seat, marching down to the front of the room because she said, I want to do this too. I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this together. Mm-hmm. And should we say the rest is history? Or
it is history. And
it is history. And
we had absolutely no idea what that was even going to look like doing this together. We actually had no intention of
no, we actually didn't even
let's start a business together.
We didn't even discuss it like that we're going to do this together or whatever, but
I didn't even know what this was going to look like. I had no idea.
I didn't either. I had no idea. All I know, it was my ticket to freedom.
Well, and I was not going to be waiting tables for the rest of
No.
my life. That wasn't going to be the vibe. We went back and we got
Yeah, we
certified a
did.
few months
A
later.
couple months later.
And it just made sense. We were both living in Santa Fe. It made
Yeah,
sense that we link arms and we do this whole thing together.
together.
And 13 years later, we've had so many different iterations,
Yeah,
so many deaths and resurrections
we
of
have.
various forms of all of this. And I think that to circle back to what we are all about today
Mhm.
and why now is the time for us to share many teachings and personal lessons and understandings that we have come to, and to really name it the becoming. I mean, we've had a lot of different iterations of what even the name of this podcast could be,
Yeah.
but we have always been about the becoming, the process. It really is, because what we have come to know
Mhm.
in the marrow of our bones is that the real gift of this whole journey is who you become in the process.
Yeah. It's not about the stuff. And often we think that it's about that,
Yeah.
but it's the soul work that we do within ourselves to become more. It's like, I knew my life was meant for more. Well, I had to become more. I had to be more and continue to grow. And you too.
And I think what happens, we've been a bit robotically going through our lives, the trajectory that has been set in front of us for so many reasons. It could be because of family, school, culture, society, community,
I
etc.
would say all of them.
All
All
of the above.
all of the above.
So we've been going on a trajectory, and then you start to hear something that is outside of the norm. You start to maybe imagine possibilities for your life that are bigger than you ever thought you were capable of. But there's a gap from where you are to where you want to be.
And sometimes that gap is a pretty darn big gap.
It can be a big chasm. I
Yeah,
think for most of us it is. It
it
absolutely
feels
has
that
been for
way.
me.
Totally feels that way. Like we have no idea how we're going to get from here to here.
And in that gap, in that chasm, that's the becoming. So it's all of the things. It can be things practically that we need to learn, that we need
Skill
to
sets.
skill sets that we need to learn, that we need to shore up, that we need to, like, literal things that we need to do.
Yeah.
Another thing that I've really discovered is it's a lot of who we need to unbecome.
Ah,
It's the unraveling of an old identity and an old self that actually is not accurate. It's not
yeah,
really who we are, but it's the conditioning that and the constructs that we have taken on about ourselves
yeah.
that needs to die.
It's who we believed we were in the presence of other people. These beliefs that were given to us from other people about what they believed that was possible for us,
Which is really just a reflection of what they believe is possible for.
for themselves. And I knew that in my own life, that there was my parents were only going to be able to believe so far about me. And that is
Mm,
the truth, that because they couldn't, their own fear, their own constructs, their own concerns, their own sense of lack, and maybe,
mm,
lack of worthiness as well,
mm.
that they weren't able to actually see that for me. And therefore, I couldn't see it for myself, except
Until,
until I made a decision that I could see it for myself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Something that we have become more and more about
Yeah.
over these years is about breaking generational chains.
Yes.
When we first joined forces, this was not the conversation that we were having at all.
We didn't have any idea about it,
In
is the
fact,
truth.
I would say that we have both felt very misunderstood
Mhm.
by many people around us, whether they are close people that knew us way back when. But I also have felt misunderstood by coaches and by mentors that have mentored both of us, because they
Mhm.
don't understand. They don't see what we see, what we've always sensed, that there's a reason
That we have joined forces
for a reason.
for a reason.
And I think initially, especially, I mean, I was 25 years old when we joined forces.
We're not going to say how old I was.
Okay.
How
I
old
don't
was I?
even,
Oh, I was less than 60.
you were not 60 yet.
No, I wasn't
Yeah,
60
I
yet.
do remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
So when we joined forces, it, of course, it helped me in that sense of having the wisdom and the gravitas of you having
Hmm.
done so many different things in your life. But I think a lot of people felt like we were doing this out of a need to stay safe and have like a security blanket with one another.
Or some kind of codependent kind of thing going on.
What we did always sense from the very, very beginning is that there was something about us being mother-daughter. And
Yeah.
now, over many, many years, we have unpacked what that actually means. We've unpacked so much of our generational trauma inside of our lineages. And
We've done the work,
we have
honey.
so much work.
Yes.
And now this is what we do with our clients. And now it makes
Now it's
perfect
perfect
sense.
sense. Yeah. So, really, we can only often connect the dots going backwards.
Yeah.
Kate, back to the whole concept of the becoming.
Yeah.
So the truth of it is that we've discovered, of course, is that the becoming is not a destination.
It's not a destination.
It's not something that we're going to finally get to and say, oh, okay, now I'm here.
Now I've planted my feet on the mountaintop.
So
I've arrived. We're
because
done. We're cooked.
no, because that mountaintop continues to present itself with new paths and new vistas and new horizons. And I plan on that being my life experience, to continue to grow and expand and not hold something in my hands that I need to be solid in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Just to be open to like, what's next? What's evolving? What is seeking to emerge at this point in time? And that is why this podcast, this first episode, is exactly perfect on this day, because it's an evolution.
It's a living, breathing creature in and of itself.
It is.
And some of the greatest lessons that we have particularly learned in the last year are so much around letting go,
So much around
surrendering,
letting go and surrendering in ways
trust.
that I never could have imagined. And so staying open to the green growing edges of our becoming and not necessarily knowing what's going to come next.
Absolutely. Something that I have been talking to so many of our clients about recently that really has landed for me so much is that I used to look around at other people and look at their path and think, oh my gosh, okay, so she's further along than I am. That must be where I need to be going, especially in this entrepreneurial space. Like, oh my gosh, she has it all figured out. Like, that's what this is all going to look like. And what I have really come to appreciate and understand and learn viscerally is that if I look ahead and I see a path, I'm not on my path. I'm on someone else's path.
Someone else's path, not yours.
So the very fact that and this is part of the trust, surrender, free fall, is that this journey is about learning how to trust ourselves so implicitly, to know ourselves so implicitly that we allow ourselves to be led on the journey, and that we don't need to have some sort of future destination where we're headed. It doesn't mean that we don't have ideas. It doesn't mean that we aren't led by the dreams of our heart. But when we look forward and we see that there's a path, we're not on the right path because we're on someone else's path. When we're
That's
on
so
our
profound.
path, the path disappears in front of us.
We're just led.
We're just led.
We're just led. And then the next thing is revealed. And then the next is revealed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the becoming. Welcome to the becoming. Welcome to the first episode. We are going to dive into so many various topics around this. We have
excited.
so much to share, y'all.
There are a couple Geminis in the room here.
Oh, Lord.
Actually, there are 3 of them because Izzy, our Labrador, she's a Gemini too.
We have the gift of gab.
So anyway, to be continued.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate you. This is going to be quite a journey, quite a ride. We can't wait to dive in further. Thank you so much for joining us on the first episode of The Becoming.
For sharing this with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to The Becoming.
We'd love for you to join our growing community. Please subscribe to the podcast, share this episode with a friend, and leave a 5-star review.
It truly means the world to us and helps others to find their way here too. We'll see you in the next episode.